Reminder of our top story, the beheading of U.S. journalist James Foley by a jihadist with a British accent, U.S. President Barack Obama, to speak in a little under 30 minutes' time. A graphic video posted late Tuesday claims to emanate from an area of Syria under the control of the Islamic State organization. Well, joining us now, a friend of James Foley's, reporter James VanDyke, maker of the award-winning documentary on Syria, Not Anymore, A Story of Revolution. Matthew, thank you for being with us here on France 24. First of all, tell us the first time you met James Foley. Do you remember it?
I first met James in Libya. He had returned to the country to continue reporting after being detained by the Gaddafi regime, and I had just escaped from prison. And we hit it off right away and became good friends. We were actually roommates for a while in Tripoli.
Roommates in Tripoli. He's been described as an experienced reporter. He worked for the French news agency AFP, for Global Post. He wasn't a hothead, you say?
No, he was very professional. He took very calculated risks, especially after being detained in Libya. He became more cautious, and he was very professional, very smart. And that's part of the scary thing, is that if it could happen to somebody as professional as James, it could happen to anybody. I
was going to say, yet he and other seasoned journalists have been abducted in Syria.
Right. Syria is like a black hole that swallows up foreigners that go there. It's an absolute tragedy, and it's like nothing else before it.
The video that was posted, obviously the intent there to draw publicity. What do you think of the way that it's been handled in the media? How should this story be treated?
I think the media has done a good job so far of handling it. I mean, the video does not make ISIS look good. I think people need to see the barbarity of this organization. When you say in the abstract that somebody was beheaded, images come to mind that aren't quite as horrific as what actually happened here. And people need to see that. People need to understand what we're dealing with ISIS.
Another reporter, Steven Sotloff, is threatened at this particular time. What do you think that governments should do? We're waiting for remarks from U.S. President Barack Obama. What would you like to hear him say?
You know, I hope they do everything they can to get him back. As far as policy decisions, Steven Sotloff is a friend of mine as well. I mean, we had dinner just a few weeks before he disappeared in Syria, so I'm not really comfortable recommending a policy when my friend's life is on the line.
Let me ask you also about the way that the situation is fluid, as they sometimes say, between Iraq and Syria at this point. On the one hand, ISIS in retreat when it comes to northern Iraq, but on the advance in places like Aleppo in Syria, where the Syrian opposition says they're moving on the Maria neighborhood. Your thoughts on this organization and where they're going?
Part of the reason ISIS has been successful is that they're opportunistic. They hit softer targets. And they adapt and they shift where they need to. And now they know that the moderate opposition in Syria is weak. They know they're coming up against some harder resistance in Iraq, so they're going to pull back and they're going to hit the softer targets. That's their modus operandi. That's part of what's made them successful, and that's what they're going to do.
In French newspaper Le Monde, one of the leaders of the moderate opposition in Syria is saying that if they take that neighborhood of Aleppo, it'll be the end of the opposition in Syria. Do you agree?
Yes, I'm very worried for the revolution. I think that essentially it could be over in a matter of weeks or months, and then it will become an ISIS versus the Assad government. And nobody really wins in that situation.
We've seen the U.S. and the U.K. and Europe get involved when it comes to ISIS in Iraq, but not in Syria so far.
Well, that's a tragedy. If they'd become involved with ISIS at the very beginning in Syria, none of this would have happened with Iraq. ISIS came into the revolution in spring 2013. So there was all of 2011, 2012, and part of 2013 to have helped the moderate opposition in Syria to bring the war to a close, or at least to have made the moderate opposition so strong that ISIS couldn't challenge them when ISIS showed up.
All right. I want to thank you very much, Matthew VanDyke, for being with us. And our thoughts are with you and, of course, the family of James Foley. after the beheading of that U.S. journalist